Endurance Car Series.
Diecast. Endurance. Car. Series. 12 teams. 24 drivers. 2 classes. 1 champion. It's showtime.
Welcome to War on I-4 Diecast Racing. I'm your host, Cletus Papadopoulos, along with my co-hosts, Chuck McAvee and Scooter Douglas. Today, we have the inaugural season and qualifying rounds of the Diecast Endurance Car Series. Scooter and Chuck, you guys look different. How's it going?
Well, Cletus, it's the inaugural season of a new series, so I decided to get a makeover. However, you look the same. You just changed your suit. But Scooter, he looks like a whole new person.
It's good to see you guys haven't lost your sense of humor. It's a pleasure to be back. Welcome to the qualifying rounds of the Michelin 24. Before we go any further, let's introduce the teams and their drivers. The GT class, driving the Corvettes for Team Madness Motorsports, number 55, High Octane, and number 72, Tux McBee. Also competing in the GT class, driving the GT40 for Diablo Ridge Racing is the number 8 of El Diablo Don and the number 91 of Dana. Here we have another team from Team Madness Motorsports in the GT class, driving the Mopar Dodge Vipers. It's going to be the number 10 of the Mad One and the number 20 of Joe Rudy. Next up in the GT class is the LF-ENT Racing Team. Driving the Jaguars is going to be the number 28 of Mr. Freeze, Ty Frozone. And then the number 34 car, my favorite name of the whole group, Miami Mike. Driving the AMG Mercedes in the GT class for Team Mexico Club 23 Le Mans is going to be the number 11 of Daniel Mercado and the number 18 of Eddie Madrid. The final competitors of the GT class driving for Parks Racing Team in the McLaren is the number 52 of Ian Parks and the number 7 of Rachel Parks. And now we're moving on to the prototype class. The first team to be introduced in the Ferraris driving for Team Rust Belt Racing is going to be the number 6 of Cupcake and the number 4 of Turtle. NZ Racing will also be competing in the prototype class driving the Mazdas. The number 30 of Big Mike is going to be partnered with the number 41 Matthew Harding. In the prototype class, Team 6-37 Racing driving the Porsches, the number 32 of Simon Harvey and the number 66 of Melissa Seguin. Red Storm GP will also be competing in the prototype class, driving the Aston Martins, the 00 of Cesar Jimenez and the 69 of Octavio Octo Moran. Next up is Team Mocon Competition competing in the prototype class, driving the Cadillacs, the number 1 of Samu Koku Nasaku and the number 76 of Tommy McKinnon. And the final team competing in the prototype class, also driving Ferraris, Team Silverback Racing, the number 3 of Jimmy John and the number 88 of King Yardy. Well, race fans, we're moments away from the first car making its way down the track for its qualifying run. But before we do, let's have a word from Chuck, who's down in the pit garage.
Well, Cletus, there's an eerie calm down here in the pit garage. Unlike the Diecast Open Wheel Series, where the drivers were new, the cars were new, and the track were new, many of these drivers and teams have already ran this track in the Open Wheel Series, so they have some understanding of how it works. Back to you.
The first driver to make this qualifying run is going to be Jimmy John from Team Silverback Racing. They're going to be driving the Ferraris. That's going to be our first driver to make their qualifying run. Jimmy John from Team Silverback Racing stops the clock with a time of 9.47 seconds, good enough for P1. Next up is Dasuka driving the Cadillac for Team Mocom Competition. He has a lot of experience with this track as he's one of several drivers that's competing in the Open Wheel Series. Nasuka stops the clock with a time of 9.83 seconds. I believe that's going to put him in P2 for now. At the gate, driving the number 30 Mazda for Team NZ Racing is going to be Big Mike. Big Mike stops the clock with a time of 9.84 seconds, landing him in P3. What we have to take in consideration is most of these cars have not gone down this track before. Cesar Jimenez is ready to make his qualifying run for Red Storm GP. Cesar Jimenez clocks a time of 9.06 seconds. That's going to land him in P1. Now this car and driver is very experienced on this track. As you already know, Simon Harvey is competing in the Open Wheel Series and he's one of our top competitors. The car he's driving is the same model that competed in the now disassembled Diecast Le Mans Classic Series. Simon Harvey is going to be the first driver to go sub 9 seconds with a time of 8.94 seconds, snatching P1. In the gate, we have another experienced team. This is going to be Rust Belt Racing. Driving the number 6 Ferrari is Cupcake. Cupcake crosses the finish line with a time of 9.07 seconds, and that's going to be good enough for P3. Here we have our first GT car to make its qualifying run. Driving the McLaren is Ian Parks from Parks Racing Team. That's Ian Parks with a time of 9.10 seconds, good enough for P4. Due to technical issues with his primary vehicle, High Octane has been relegated to qualify with his backup vehicle. Nevertheless, this car is quite capable. That's going to be High Octane with a very solid time of 9.13 seconds, good enough for P5. Next up, qualifying in the GT class is the Jaguar, driven by Ty Frozo, Mr. Freeze himself. Now the Jaguar is a bit of a new car with this circuit, so there's limited data. Let's see how it does. And Mr. Freeze from LFENT Racing lights up the track with a blistering time of 8.85 seconds, jumping into P1. In the gate for Diablo Ridge Racing is El Diablo Don driving the Ford GT40. El Diablo stops the clock with a time of 9.27 seconds, putting him in P7. second team for Team Madness Motorsports, driving the number 10 Dodge Viper, is the Mad One. The Mad One crosses the line with a time of 9.81 seconds, putting him in P9. The first driver from Team Mexico 23 Le Mans is going to be Daniel Ricciardo, driving the Mercedes AMG. Ricciardo is also competing in the Open Wheel Series, and I expect him to do quite well here. Daniel Ricciardo stops the clock at 9 seconds flat, putting him in P3. The first half of the qualifying rounds did not disappoint us. We're going to take a short break before the next 12 drivers go down the track. We'd like to thank a few of the groups and organizations that have supported us along the way. So grab a snack and come on back, because you don't want to miss a moment of the Michelin 24 qualifying rounds. We'd like to thank Silverback Racing for their continued support with our events. Please follow them on Facebook for useful information with builds and racing. Again, that's Silverback Racing on Facebook. We'd also like to thank Rust Belt Racing for their continued support. They're going to have some of the finest nightly diecast racing around. You can find them on Facebook and YouTube at Rust Belt Diecast Racing. Please visit the Diecast Racing Report via YouTube and Chaos Canyon. You're going to find out where all the tournaments and races are happening. Again, that's the Diecast Racing Report via YouTube and Facebook. And finally, we'd like to thank Ivan from Thunderoo Raceway. Ivan has been a supporter since the early days of War on I-4. You're going to find some of the finest Australian diecast racing around. Again, that's Ivan with Thunderoo Raceway. Welcome back, race fans. We're going to jump right back into the action. We're not going to delay it any further. In the gate now is King Yardy from Silverback Racing, driving the Ferrari. King Yardy dips below 9 seconds with a time of 8.81 seconds, jumping into P1. Next in the gate is Tommy McKinnon from Mocon Competition, driving the Cadillac. Tommy McKinnon crosses the line with a time of 9.46 seconds, putting him in P10. In the gate, ready to make his qualifying run, is Matthew Harding from Team NZ Racing. Matthew is a newcomer to the circuit, so let's see what he has. Newcomer or not, Harding puts that Moss on the top of the leaderboard with a time of 8.79 seconds. Here we're going to have Ocho Moran from Red Storm GP. The car he's driving has proven to be very reliable, and in fact, it's held the track record at one point. Driving the Aston Martin, Ocho stops the clock with a time of 9.53 seconds. Not the time he was looking for, but I'm sure they'll get that car dialed in. In the gate, driving the Porsche, is Melissa Seguin. Now, Melissa is a newcomer to the circuit as well. However, this Porsche has proven to be one of the top runners. Talk about making a first impression. Melissa crosses the line with a time of 8.84 seconds, good enough for P3. The last of the prototype cars to make their qualifying run is going to be Turtle from Team Rust Belt Racing. He's going to be driving the Ferrari. Turtle stops the clock with a time of 9.66 seconds. That's going to be P15 for him. We have another newcomer to the circuit. That's Rachel Parks for Parks Racing Team, and she's going to be driving the McLaren. The McLaren is also new to this circuit. She's going to have her work cut out for her. Let's see what she does. That's a solid time for Rachel Parks. It's going to be 9.40 seconds, good enough for P12. In the gate, driving the Corvette for Team Madness Motorsports is Tux McBee. Tux has a lot of experience on this circuit as well as many others. I'm sure he's going to put that vehicle in a top position. That's Tux McBee with a time of 8.80 seconds, holding down P2. Miami Mike is set to make his qualifying run for LFENT Racing, and he'll be driving that powerful Jaguar. Miami Mike sets the bar where I don't think it's going to be top. With an 8.75 seconds, he's going to be in P1. Dana Neeson is the next driver to make her qualifying run. She's racing for El Diablo Ridge Racing, driving the GT40. Dana Neeson crosses the line with a very respectable 9.15 seconds, landing her in P13. The final driver to qualify for Team Madness Motorsports is Joe Rudy. He's going to be driving the Dodge Viper. It's key to note, Joe Rudy is driving his backup car due to technical issues with his primary vehicle. With the time of 9.50 seconds, Joe Rudy will secure a P18 or P19 spot. We're down to the last driver to make their qualifying run. That's going to be Eddie Madrid for Team Mexico Club 23 Racing, driving the Mercedes AMG. With the qualifying time of 8.87 seconds, Eddie Madrid will start at P7 for the Michelin 24. And there you have it. All 12 teams, 24 drivers have made their qualifying run for the Michelin 24. Chuck and Scooter, do you have any predictions on who's going to win the race?
Cletus, for me, it's just too early to determine. As you know, cars that qualify well don't often translate over to a race performance. Plus, these times have been so close, I'm going to defer until at least after the first round.
I have 3 letters for you. FTE. That's right. Tux McBee from Team Madness Motorsports will take the win. You can't deny the power of that Corvette. Oh wow, a bold prediction from Scooter Douglas, who's picked Tux McBee from Team Madness Motorsports driving the FTE Corvette to win the Michelin 24. Well folks, that's our time. On behalf of my co-hosts Chuck McAfee and Scooter Douglas, I'm your host, Cletus Papadopoulos. Thank you for watching. Good night.